Our clients generate 30, 40, and even 50% of their revenue from email every single month. It helps them reduce their reliance on paid platforms like Meta and Google and TikTok, and also allows them to scale more consistently and predictably. So in this video, I'm going to run through the exact step-by-step guide on how to set up Klaviyo for your Shopify store. Now, I audit dozens of accounts every single month, and honestly, so many brands and marketers end up missing out on a ton of revenue simply because they don't have some of the basic things set up properly. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Derek and I'm the founder of Ascend Media. We're an email marketing agency who focus on helping 7- and 8-figure D2C e-commerce businesses generate more profit through email marketing. Now, we also have a program that helps you master all things email. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and check that out below. So if you're looking to reduce your reliance on paid ads, or you're just looking to get your store set up and optimized for email, you're in the right place. I'm going to jump in and share my screen and we'll dive right in here. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that Klaviyo is properly integrated with your Shopify store. Now, it's pretty easy here. All you need to do is go to the left-hand bar here, go to integrations, and then you'll see Shopify here. If you downloaded Klaviyo through Shopify, you'll already have this here. If for whatever reason it's not there, you can just go ahead and click Add Integration, find Shopify, and add that in there. Now, if you don't yet have a Shopify account, or a Klaviyo account, I should say, there's a link below this video that'll get you up to 500 free sends per month. Just follow the on-screen instructions and you can set up that account there. So once you've got the account, you can now follow along here and just make sure there's a few things that you get set up properly right out the gate. The first being your dedicated sending domain. Now, for a lot of videos that are kind of tutorials on Klaviyo, if you don't have this, you're going to be missing out dramatically. And this is something that came into play in early 2024. On the left-hand side, again, go ahead and go in here, click on settings. And then what you're going to want to do is go to domains. So domains, it'll probably give you an error message at your home screen if you don't have this set up. You need to set up your main domain here. So for this account, it would be ulubags.com. I then click on next. The sending domain here, basically this is just the domain you'll be using to send your emails from. I just leave it as send. It's pretty straightforward there. And then I typically will just leave this as dynamic as well. So once you've done that, you also need to add in a DMARC record. So I'm going to go ahead and click next here. And then what you need to do is basically select your domain provider. So wherever you purchased your domain from, if it was Shopify, select there. If it's GoDaddy, select here, and then click next. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you a series of records here. It's going to give you a DMARC record. It's going to give you a Klaviyo, basically kind of like a site verification record. And then it's going to give you a bunch of NS records as well. Now, it's important they select the right one or you select the correct provider here. If you say other, like if it's not on here, then you have to say other, and make sure that your DNS provider actually does have NS records as well. So this is absolutely crucial, setting up that dedicated sending domain and making sure these DNS records are set up right away. And then further to that, making sure that your DMARC records are set up is super, super, super important. So once you've got that done, once you have completed that, and once you've clicked verify and it's showing up as verified, then what you need to do is go ahead and create 2 lists. So I'll show you exactly how to do that in a moment here. Okay, so the 2 lists you're going to want to create. The first one, it's probably going to auto create this for you, and it's going to be called the newsletter list. So once you see the newsletter list, what I would do is just star that because it's going to be one of your core lists. And then you're going to also want to create another list, and that list is going to be called Shopify opt-ins. So I'm just going to search for Shopify, a bunch of different lists in here. There we go. Shopify customers or Shopify opt-ins. Now, the reason you're going to want to create 2 lists is because it makes it a little bit cleaner for you. What you want to do is go ahead and go back to that integrations tab, click on Shopify, and then what you want to do is make sure that this section here, the sync data from Shopify, you're selecting the Shopify customers or the Shopify opt-in list, not the newsletter list. I'll get to why that's important in just a minute, but it really comes down to just keeping your list separate and keeping things just a little bit cleaner for you. Okay, so once you've created those lists, the next thing you want to check on is make sure that your double opt-in is off. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the lists here. I'm going to go Shopify, the very end here. Cool. And then what you want to make sure is that you go into settings, consent, and then make sure your double opt-in is off, right? So you should have single opt-in checked off. Okay, so once you've got that set up, one of the most overlooked pieces with email marketing is the sign-up form. The more emails you're able to retain and collect, the more revenue you're going to be able to generate, all other things being equal. This is really, really important. I would highly recommend testing this and shooting for 5% opt-ins or more. Make sure that you're A/B testing and make sure that you have a clear CTA. Okay, so the pop-up is one of the most overlooked things, and it is absolutely crucial to make sure you're capturing as many emails as you possibly can and growing your list. We want engaged people, and we also want to collect some data on people as well. So this is an example. You've got a very clear offer. You've got 10% off. What are you most interested in? They sell men's, women's, and children's clothing and other items as well. But the men's and women's clothing are basically their primary sellers. So you then go ahead and enter your email, click unlock 10% off, and then you get a thank you page that says, hey, congratulations, go check your email to get that 10% off code. So the reason it's so important to keep testing this is because the more people you get submitting, the more people you get into flows, and the more people you get into campaigns. Overall, your revenue will increase if you're able to improve your opt-in rates. Okay, so that kind of brings us to the next piece of the puzzle here. What I mentioned is flows and campaigns. So flows are basically emails that are triggered by a certain event or a certain thing happening, whereas campaigns are just one-time sends. So they're not necessarily triggered by something. It's more so, hey, you know what, we're going to have a promo, or we're going to have a product spotlight, or we have a new product launch, whatever that might be. They are one-time emails. So, and they're going to be blasted out to larger percentage of people versus flows where it's typically just like a one person at a time type of a send. So the main flows that you're going to want to focus on initially is going to be the welcome flow, number one, the browse abandonment, and the abandoned checkout. So I'm going to show you how we structure the welcome flow. So the welcome flow for us kind of starts with these flow filters. So make sure you have added to cart 0 times, checkout started 0 times, and placed orders 0 times. The reason we want this is so that people who have done these things are not getting into the welcome series. You might want to add some further filters in there if you want to make sure you're avoiding spam and that type of thing as well. So this is the first thing. We will sometimes include a profile tag just to exclude those people from campaigns if we want to, or if the client has a certain preference. And then we send the first email. So the first email in the welcome series is simply just, hey, welcome to the brand, and here is the offer that we promised you, essentially. So for example, with that offer I just showed you, it was 10% off. We're giving them that 10% off offer. Make sure that you actually give what you say you were going to, right? It's very, very important. And you don't want like a bait and switch type of thing. People are not going to love that. Not a great first impression, right? We'll then wait a day, and then we'll send kind of a brand mission or a founder story. So this is where we can like build upon the founder or build upon just the brand in general. If there's a big purpose or a big why behind the brand, this is where we can start to really kind of like tell the story a little bit more. We'll wait a day again, and then provide some social proof and testimonials. Depending on what we're selling, social proof will have varying levels of impact, and we might want to incorporate, some PR or something like that too, if they've been featured in certain magazines or articles or news channels or things like that, or if they've got certain accolades or awards that people would notice, especially their customers would notice. This is really important as well. Okay, now once we've done that, we'll again wait another day, and then we'll send them some best-selling products. If you got a one product store, you are going to have to change this up. But if you have multiple products, this is where you can showcase some of your best sellers. We'll wait 2 days, and then we'll send a last chance to use the opt-in offer. Ideally, if you actually have real scarcity and real urgency in that the initial offer expires after, call it 5 days or 7 days or something like that, that is ideal, right? Wait another 2 days and then give them another quiz. If these people still have not purchased at this point, it's sometimes worth giving them a stronger offer, right? So if we're trying to like really get them across the line, let's introduce a new and stronger offer to them, see if they purchase, and if not, let's have a last chance. And then maybe depending on the client, we may have one more piece of outreach where it's like, hey, like, what's up? Like, what gives? Why didn't you purchase? Are you not interested? That type of thing. Obviously not quite that type of copy, but along those lines. So that's the welcome series. This is going to be probably the number 1 or number 2 revenue producing flow for you, followed by the abandoned checkout. So I'm actually going to do abandoned checkout before the browse abandonment, because the abandoned checkout is going to be probably the number 2 flow for you. And what you want to do is make sure you have these 2 flow filters. They placed orders 0 times since starting this flow, and they have not been in this flow in the last 30 days. We don't want people consistently getting into this flow, right? So the trigger is when someone started the checkout, and what we want to do is wait an hour. And actually what we typically do is we'll split test send times or time delays. So we'll do like a 30-minute, a 1 hour, a 4 hour, for example, and then we'll send just a simple reminder. Sometimes we'll include some reviews in there, but it's usually just like, hey, did you forget about this? That's like one of the biggest reasons why people will just abandon their cart. It's just, hey, they forgot, they got distracted, they got a dog, they got a puppy, they got a kid, they've got something that distracted them, their phone rang, something, right? Something distracted them. And that's the first thing we want to start with. So many brands start with an offer and you give up margin right away, and it's not necessary for the most part, right? Well, then wait a day and then try to handle some of their other objections, right? If shipping costs or shipping time is an objection, we'll try to handle that there. If there's social proof, if it's a larger purchase, if social proof is important, let's try to incorporate some social proof. Let's look at the USPs of this certain product. There's so many things that you can do, and you can actually get very, very granular. If you have a handful of products that are your top sellers, consider maybe breaking out and having separate flows for each one of those products, right? Because if you can hit on the exact objections that people have for those certain products, or you can give reviews that are about that exact product, it will resonate more with people and you will get more purchases, right? Now, the next piece is just wait a day and then send some, like you're trying to handle another type of objection here. So it doesn't always necessarily need to be UGC reviews, but this is a great one to add in. But really, we're just trying to handle one of the other objections we did not handle in the second or the first email. Now, the next piece is only going out. So you'll see a conditional split here. And the conditional split is basically if you've placed an order before, we don't want you in this next, these next 3 emails. If you have never placed an order before, here's an incentive. Here is an incentive. Here's 10% off. Here's 15% off. Buy this and get a free gift, whatever it is. Here's an incentive to purchase. This is where we address the pricing objection as opposed to emails 1, 2, or 3. And then we wait a day, provide some incentive urgency. If people are still not purchasing at that point, then what we typically do is have a customer service check-in. So that's that kind of like last email here. And typically what we want to do there is just see like, hey, you got pretty close. Is there anything we can help with, right? You can automate that. What I would recommend doing is trying to create just like a text only email, or even just having that trigger something within your CRM, right? If you want to like take it the extra mile, have a real life human being reach out or call them. Pretty wild, but like not many brands do that, right? So that would be the abandoned checkout flow. And then the third one I'm going to show you real quick here is the browse abandonment flow. So the trigger for that is when someone viewed a product, and the flow filters we're going to want to have on that are basically similar to the welcome series, where it's they've added to cart 0 times, started their checkout 0 times, placed an order 0 times, and they have not been in this flow in the last 30 days. And similar to the abandoned checkout, we typically test a variety of different time delays. So, the 30-day, an hour, a 2-hour, etc. And we want to see which one will perform better. Oftentimes, if you have a lower AOV, the lower send delay will actually perform better. So keep that in mind. And the first email is really just like an indecision email. It's just a simple reminder. Like that's it. Similar to the abandoned checkout, slightly different approach because their level of intent is different. And that's something that's really important to cover as well. So with any flow, with any campaign, it is crucial to understand what people's level of intent is and what their potential objections might be and why they might not be purchasing. So with the abandoned checkout, for example, there's usually 5 different objections that people have. It's, I got distracted. It's not really an objection, but it kind of is, right? They got distracted. They had shipping objections like shipping time or shipping costs. They don't trust you, which can be solved with like social proof and PR and that type of thing, or price, right? So we're trying to break down these objections and try to break down the objections that are not price related first, so you can save yourself some margin. Now, with that said, the second email here is a bestseller or reviews. Now, typically we have that because if someone has just viewed a product, they may or may not actually want that product. They might not even be interested in that product at all. So it doesn't make sense to like pepper them back with that same thing. The first thing is just like, hey, a reminder, were you like not 100% sure on this? And then the next one is like, hey, here's some other things that you actually might like, and maybe you like more, right? Now, the next piece here, similar to the abandoned checkout, we have a conditional split. anyone who's purchased is not getting the reminder, the third reminder, and the incentive. Basically, it's this very similar structure here. So the third email, another simple reminder, maybe handling slightly different objections, or it can be that incentive. And then that third or that fourth email would be like an incentive reminder, maybe some real crazy reviews or something like that. So that's essentially, those are your core flows. Now, when it comes to campaigns, there's so many different things that you can do, but what a lot of people don't do is segment. And what that means is not just like creating one segment and sending to that one segment the entire time. What it means is understanding who you're sending to, understanding what they're interested in, and understanding if they should be receiving this right now, right? So let me give you a couple examples here. Some of the campaigns we send, it could be sales and promotion. It could be a product spotlight. So it's like highlighting a certain product, collection spotlight. It could be a brand spotlight. It could be a new brand. If we're talking about like a marketplace and that type of thing, it could be a new brand feature that they have. Or if it's a boutique, maybe they've added this new brand in. It could be something to do with just like a newsletter, like just something reaching out and being like, hey, this is what's going on with us. This is why you should care about it. It could also be value adds. So it could be tips or tricks, or, if you sell skincare, it could be, here's some ways that you can improve your skin without even using anything, like hydration, and like, don't like let your puppy lick your face or something like that, right? Just there's a myriad of different campaign ideas you can have, but what's important to consider is, are the people that you're sending to actually interested in this? Right? A lot of people just think of email as like one-to-many, but what I would recommend doing is thinking about email as a one-to-one communication, because really that's what it is. Like, you're not speaking on a stage, you're sending from you to an individual. You're not sending from you to multiple individuals on the same email, right? You may be sending a campaign to thousands of different people, but that's beside the point. It is one-to-one. So having a more personal conversation, having more personalized recommendations for people will make people way more interested in receiving your emails in the future, and it'll also keep them way more engaged, which will make them spend more money with you. If you keep sending the same thing to the same people and they're not interested, they're going to go email numb, and even though they open it, they're just going to open archive, not even open it. They're just going to start archiving, right? They're going to not be interested in what you're sending. So what my recommendation would be is to consider it through the lens of a customer. Every time you send something, be like, is this relevant? For example, if you're doing a product spotlight on a new soup that you just launched for your soup company. Like, let's say it's a new and improved soup. Is someone who's never tried your soup and who's never purchased before going to care about a new and improved? Probably not, because they didn't know what the initial one was, right? Same deal as, hey, if you're doing a product spotlight email and you're highlighting a certain product, does it make sense to send that to people who just purchased the product within the last 7 to 14 days? Probably not, because if someone just purchased that product, one of three things is usually true. Either they just received the product and they have not consumed it yet. They have received the product and they liked it, in which case they will come back and buy more. They should be added into a separate flow or separate email for that. Or 3, they did not like the product and your email is going to piss them off and they're going to be like, your product sucks, I am not interested. And maybe they'll leave you a negative review. In any of these situations, people are not interested, and there was not enough thought into the consumer on the other side of that receiving email, or the consumer receiving the email, I should say, right? So when it comes to campaign sends, those are very, very important things to consider. And then what you want to do is just start looking at what's a reasonable campaign cadence. So some of our clients are sending every single day. I would not recommend starting there. I recommend starting at 2 a month, and then go to 4 a month, and then go to 6 or 8 a month, and then 10, and then 12, and slowly build your way up so you can see and understand, like, hey, how are open rates looking? How is the engagement looking on these emails? How are our click rates? How are our purchase rates? Are we actually getting more sales, or are we just peppering people with more emails? Sometimes, especially if you're, and I'm going to asterisk this, make sure you do segment, but if you're not doing a lot of segmentation, it doesn't make sense to send as many emails. One of our clients, for example, they sell luxury bags, and what we do is we send very specific emails to people based off of their interest, based off of what they've been shopping for, based off what they had purchased before. And because of that, we can send way more emails, because if someone is interested in XYZ brand, like let's say Chanel or something like that, and and we know they're interested because that's what they've been checking out. They added to cart, they initiated checkout, they checked out all these products they purchased before. They're interested in that. They're very interested in that. So if they receive an email about Chanel bags, they're going to be stoked. But if I send that to someone who is checking out $200 bags from some other brand, may not be applicable because there's a big gap there. There's a huge gap there from whatever that $200 bag is to like a Chanel bag, right? So you're just hitting up the wrong people. So when you're sending campaigns, keep what I mentioned in mind at the very beginning. So send to the right people at the right time with the right message. Your campaigns will do so much better. Now, that's kind of the A to Z on how to get email marketing set up. That's really kind of like an end-to-end process, very high level. But if you do have more questions, if you're just kind of starting to dive into it, go ahead, check out my channel. There's a ton of videos just all on email marketing. I nerd out over this stuff. And if you happen to be watching this and you have a brand that's doing over $50,000 a month in revenue, I invite you to apply through our link just below this video. Might be a good fit to help you out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching and have yourselves a great day.